Welcome to LEAD. LEAD is our leadership initiative of Champion Christian Center. We want to raise up leaders to be equipped and empowered to accomplish everything that God has purpose for you to do. Today we're going to be talking about an exciting topic, what your team needs from you as a leader. So we're going to be talking about morale and different things that you can do to be the best leader for your team. So I'm excited. If you're watching, go ahead and like and share the broadcast as we're talking today about morale and leadership. If there's something that speaks to you in the comment, if there's a point that pops up on the screen, go ahead and put it in the comment section. Or if you have a question, you can put it in there as well, and we'll answer some questions at the end. But we are so excited to talk about this today, and we will see you back in just a moment.
Hey, welcome to our LEAD broadcast. We're so excited to have you with us today, and we're going to cover a few key areas and principles of leadership in the area of what your team needs from you as a leader. When you look at teams and when people are building teams, there's nothing worse than a team with low morale. People, when they show up to work, they just don't feel like being there. You can tell when a morale is low, whether it's in an organization or a church. When the morale's low, usually the output of that organization or business is usually low as well. So, learning to keep a high morale is going to help generate, not only people enjoy showing up for work, but they're passionate about what they do. And so let's talk about some key principles to that today. The first point really is seeing the vision. See the vision. And so, I think that's important. Defining what it is the win is, looking at it and saying, what is the goal here? What is the vision of what we're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, just as negative as bad morale is, when you start to develop good, positive morale, it does so much for your organization. And when you define the win, when you clearly define what the goal is, people, there's nothing worse than the people that you're leading not knowing if they're doing good, if they're hitting the mark, if they're doing what you're expecting of them. So when you keep a clear vision before them, then they can say, yes, you know what, we're making progress here. We might not be where we're going, but we're closer than ever before. We're making progress towards that goal, and they can celebrate the little wins, and it creates a positive momentum and a positive morale within your organization. So.
Yeah, so I think, if you're looking at point number one, seeing the vision clearly, go ahead and take a moment if you have a pen and paper or whatever you're taking notes with today, and just jot down how do I clearly define the win for my organization? And for every organization, that really looks different, but and really, every department of an organization, what is a win for one of the members of your team isn't the same win. They're all accomplishing the greater good of the organization and the overall vision. But say, for instance, we have our discipleship pastor, we have a worship pastor, children's, we have all these different areas. And so all of their wins are going to look different. It's the same way in an organization or even in a family. Define the wins. What does it look like to win? It might be, for a church organization, seeing people come to Christ, seeing people being discipled in small groups. For your family, it might be quality time, or what does that look like? If you can't define the win, then neither can the people on your team. So you've got to be able to define those wins, and really that comes with setting goals. Let's talk about setting goals for a minute.
Yeah, so as you're setting goals with your organization, you can have short-term goals, you can have long-term goals, but you have to have something that's measurable for people to be able to celebrate, to say, yeah, we're making progress. There's nothing worse than for a team member to feel like they're constantly spinning their wheels. Am I making a difference? Are we going forward? Are we going backwards? So setting goals helps you to measure your progress, to say, you know what? Yes, we are getting somewhere. We can celebrate this, and it increases the morale of your whole team to know that they're working together. Everyone wants to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. They want to know clearly what the vision is that you're aiming for and going towards. And as you're setting these goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, the short-term goals are helping them attain things on a level that is quicker for them to attain, rather than the long-term goals. You know, if you're accomplishing something within 3 months and you're working towards that 12-month goal, then you're seeing progress being made. So, you know, keeping a list of short-term and long-term goals is really important. Not only that, but having that clear vision for the organization, so people can clearly see what they're working towards. That, you know, whatever organization that you have, letting them see the mission, letting them see the heart behind what they're doing will help them feel like they're part of something bigger than just maybe what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So it'll help them to feel important, and it'll really raise the morale that they're feeling like, well, wow, I'm a part of something bigger than myself. You know, I might be doing a mundane task, but it's part of a bigger picture that we're accomplishing, and we're moving forward together. So.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think, you know, the other thing when we're talking about defining the win is, you know, wins look different in every season. You know, just because you've accomplished that goal, or you've celebrated that, or you've looked at that win, you know, you need to always be setting that bar. You know, as a leader, you know, asking your people around you, you know, what does it look like in this season? What does the win look like? Or, you know, really, what is the goal of this season? And so I think that's great, setting some long-term, some short-term goals, and then really putting definition to it, putting legs to that on how we accomplish those goals is really the next step after that in that whole process of defining the win. Is, all right, now once we set the win, where are we at now, and how do we get to accomplishing that? What are the action steps necessary to see that accomplished? So
it's really exciting for the team to feel like they're taking ground, to feel like they're doing something that's making a difference. So, you know, there's nothing worse than when your team feels like it's day in and day out, and nothing's changing, and they're not really serving a purpose bigger than themselves. So, you know, setting those goals and keeping the morale up is important. You gain a lot of momentum as an organization as you take ground, as you accomplish goals together. So.
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge, you know, booster, morale booster within an organization or a company. And really, as a leader, taking a moment, let's take a look at the second point, and that's really feeling value, feel valued. You know, so number one is seeing the vision. Number two is feeling valued. You know, when people are accomplishing their goals, taking a moment as a leader to help celebrate that, to talk about it. You know, one of the things we try to do is we try to take a moment to celebrate the wins, to celebrate the accomplishments, you know, and look at what's happening around you. If you learn to take time and celebrate things, the wins you have as an organization, what you'll find is everybody's morale, it boosts everybody's morale. There's an excitement. We're accomplishing things. We're not just spinning our wheels. We're not just existing. No, there's things happening. We're progressing. We're meeting our goals. And that's a huge morale booster. You know, organizations that are low in morale usually aren't defining the wins clearly, and they're usually not taking time to allow the people on their team to feel valued, and when they are accomplishing it. So, you know, someone could be accomplishing something, but if you don't take that next step in allowing that value, their value to be felt, then chances are they're going to be like, well, what does it matter, you know? And the morale, that'll kill the morale of a culture, is to not celebrate or allow people, when they are producing wins, to feel valued.
So we're going to talk about feeling valued. That's your point number 2 today. And there's 3 ways that we can identify and communicate that people are valued. And the first one actually is communication, is opening that communication to the people that the team that we're serving with, to say, you know what, first of all, we're going to have honest communication here, that you are valued in the sense that you have a voice. You're bringing a voice to the table. If you're part of our organization, if you're contributing, that all of your heart is in it, you have a voice. And whenever you have clear communication within your organization, you're communicating value, and that helps to build morale within your organization. So.
Yeah, I love that point. The point of just being that honesty. Honesty in the culture is going to help build morale. And, even if it's honesty on calling someone to a higher level, it's really at the end of the day going to call them to be a better leader. And so everything you do in that sense of being transparent, being honest, is going to help build your culture to move forward, because people will begin to trust you more. If there's an honesty and a transparency about where things are at and where we're going with it, then what happens is people trust you, people move forward, and then they're able to accomplish more, and they're being fueled. They're taking time to celebrate those wins. So
yeah, even if as a leader you have to have some honest conversations, what you're really saying is, I believe in you so much that I see these areas, and if we can maybe tweak these areas, then we could see you grow to become even a better leader. And as that person makes those adjustments and grows in those areas, I mean, that's a huge morale booster. They're like, wow, like I didn't see that in myself, and you called that out in me. So with that honest relationship, that they know that you love them. What's the saying by John Maxwell? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
So as you're having those honest lines of communication open with your team, it creates positive morale within the team, and giving them a voice at the table. If there's something that you could adjust, something that can be changed, when you ignore everything and say it's going to be my way or the highway, people don't feel valued around you. They don't feel like they have anything to contribute. They actually feel devalued. They think, well, what's the use if you're not going to let me have a voice at the table? So clear communication, honest communication helps you to create that culture of value.
Yeah, think about that for a moment. There's so many ways you can communicate that you value the people that God's put around you. And that's the way you got to see it, that God's put people around me in my organization, or if it's church, or even the people in your family, that these are people God surrounded my life with. I'm going to value them. And there's ways we can do that. You just talked about one. Giving them a voice. Just something as simple sometimes as hey, what are your thoughts about this area? What you're communicating is that I value you, that I value your input, that I'm valuing you as a leader. And you know what? You may or may not use that information, but what you just did was communicate value to that person and allow them to have a voice at the table. And again, it may or may not be something you use as a leader, but we think many times that value is just created on for a monetary basis, which is one way, obviously. People like to get bonuses, or they like to get a raise. They like to see those things. So that's definitely a way we create and make people feel valued. But another way we do it without having to do it with money is giving someone a voice at the table to speak into that situation. The people you have around you should be people that you trust. You should be able to have a conversation with them. And so, if you're asking those questions to them on your team, what you're saying is, we value you. You want to, and we want to hear what you have to say. And you know what? People want to know. People really want to know that even at the end of the day, if you're not implementing the things they're talking about, they still want to have a voice at the table, because they feel they're a part of that team and they're a part of that culture and that organization. Cultures that don't get it wrong, where there's low morale, it's usually just one leader making all the calls, dictating to people what's going to be done this way, that way, and really not gaining any input from people. And they're just going to kind of go through the motions. Oh, we're just going to wait. Really what it does is it not only devalues everybody around you and their gifts, because here's the thing too, as a leader, you can't do it all, and you can't see it from their perspective. And if you try to do that, if you try to micromanage everybody, you're not only going to hurt yourself as a leader, but you're going to cause the morale to be so low, and people are just waiting for the next command. Oh, I guess I should do this. I guess I should do that. And they never have a voice, and they never feel valued in a way that they can give back to the organization.
That's true. They don't feel a part of it. They don't feel like they've contributed anything. They're celebrating it as your win as a leader, not collaboratively as our win as a team. And so, when you do that, the morale isn't as high as when you accomplish something together, that you're taking ground together. So the second way that we communicate value is through celebration. And I just want to say, if you're a church leader watching here, this is so important. You can apply this if your organization, particularly churches and nonprofits, are fueled by volunteers, creating a volunteer culture. These principles are really important to grow a volunteer culture. And so celebration is point number 2. That whenever you want to raise the morale of your team and help them to feel valued, you celebrate them. I'm thinking about all of this past month, all of February was our volunteer celebration, our Dream Team celebration month, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
We know we have prayed for a team to come around us to be able to accomplish everything that God has put in our hearts. And so it's humbling to see God bring those volunteers around us. And the last thing we would want them to feel is that we don't appreciate and thank God for the gift that they are to our organization, to see the move of God advance in this area. So we take the month and we celebrate them. We have revival services going on this week at our church. A lot of people are coming right from their 9-to-5 job and coming immediately and serving until 11 o'clock at night here at the church. So we want them to feel valued, and we do that by celebrating them. We have a whole room that we give them refreshments. We feed them dinner. We have refreshments after the service just to say thank you. There's thank you notes in there to drop them a note of appreciation. But we want to celebrate that we recognize, we honor the time that you are serving. We honor you as a person. And, as you're celebrating, you make people feel valued, because that's what you're saying. You're saying, I honor you. I honor that you are giving up something to serve this organization. You're giving up something and to serve the Lord ultimately if you're a church, but we recognize that we honor you, that you are sacrificing to be a part, and that raises the morale because they feel valued. They're like, wow, you're not taking me for granted. I have a little bit more pep in my step as I'm putting bulletins out or whatever that is that you're serving, that you're using your gift, and we are saying thank you because we know that we can't do it in our own strength. If you are a leader, you can't do it all, and you certainly can't do it all well. So as you honor others, it creates that positive morale.
Yeah, I like that, pep in my step. Hashtag that, somebody. Hashtag pep in my step.
I like that too.
I know, it's just catchy. We should have shirts made or something.
No.
No, okay, never mind. Took it too far. One step too far. But I think what you're saying though is so important though. Is in the Bible really talks about that. It talks about the eye can't say to the ear, I don't need you. There are so many different parts of the body, and when we are releasing people, when we are valuing them in these different ways, it builds a morale that, man, I'm a part of something bigger. I'm a part of, really, ultimately, if it's a church organization, we're a part of the kingdom of God,
right.
And we're all doing our part to accomplish the greater goals and advancing the kingdom and seeing the church grow. And so, these points, again, just taking up time to celebrate, to affirm. So, here's some very practical ways. Affirmation. Just something verbal that you speak. That is one way you add value. Obviously, one of the things I said was monetary. It could be a gift card. It could be a Starbucks card. It could be a check. It could be a raise.
Your
it could be
drink.
A bonus. Yeah.
Our worship leader, our son plays on the worship team, and he'll bring him a case of his favorite drink, and it's like he just gave him $1 million.
Yeah,
so.
And especially when people are, they're doing things week in and week out, and we can all tend to if you're not careful, you can lose morale on your team. But looking at ways where we say, man, we value you. You're awesome. And that's, again, we can do that verbally. We can do it through, those acts of whatever you want to call them, acts of kindness or generosity, where you give them something. Yeah, spending time with somebody, maybe even giving them a phone call, praying with them that day.
Or even, how about even just like when they walk into your office, taking a minute and saying, how are you? How is your family? Just really valuing them as a person, not just for what they can do for the organization. So.
Yeah, sometimes it's even maybe doing something for them, an act of service where you know that it means something to them. So you do that one thing. So again, don't just think of adding value to people around you as I just got to throw money at it. There are so many ways that you can build morale and take the level of your team's morale up to high levels where you're winning as a team, where you're celebrating, where your people wake up and they're excited to be in that culture. They're excited to, they're passionate, they enjoy work. They don't dread it. They don't like, man, I can't believe I had to show up there and I didn't like any of those people and I don't even know them. So there's all of these ways where you can communicate value and add value to people. And so those are just some of the things that we talked about that will demonstrate, and bring into a culture and bring a high morale. And again, the opposite is true. When you're not doing those things, people are just, it's terrible. I've been a part of, organization or worked at various jobs where it felt like a job, like it felt grueling, like I'm just showing up here for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Man, that's the lowest level of morale when people are just showing up for a paycheck. Because in time, people will cast that off. They don't want to be a part of something that just they're getting a paycheck. They can get a paycheck anywhere. And they won't put up with that for long. So, make sure you take a step back and say, am I doing these things to create a culture where the morale is high and where we're winning as a team?
That's good. And as a leader, you always want to be giving your people more than they are giving you. I know, that's how we feel as pastors. We want to be investing in our people more than what they are even, we're receiving a ton from them. They work hard. They're amazing at their gifts and callings, but we want to walk away from the relationship saying, I'm investing more into this relationship than even what I'm reaping out of it. And so, why are you laughing at me?
No, I'm like smiling, thinking about what you're saying. Like, that's awesome. And I just think too, like I was just thinking honestly, and if they're watching, they can mute this channel, but this part. But no, we have honestly, and I say this, with all sincerity, like we have some of the most amazing leaders in the body of Christ today. And I know a lot of pastors say that, but they don't really mean it. We mean it, okay? No, seriously, and to see them growing as leaders and taking on new initiatives and new things that God is speaking to them, and they're growing and they're stewarding what God's given them. I mean, it's just amazing to see how far God will take it. But you as a leader, you got to continue to pour in different ways, whether that's affirmation or taking that time to speak into things. And, just even having that open door policy, like, if you ever need something, I'm here. Just finding ways where you can sow into your people is going to create a higher morale.
That's
too.
good. So good.
And you're an awesome leader. Happy Women's Day. I wanted to say that right here on this podcast.
I feel valued. You can lavish me with presents if you want to say your value to me today.
That's one of the ways we value, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the...
Make it rain.
You're ridiculous.
I'm just joking. So
not.
Number
But anyway,
2 is feeling valued. 3 ways, if you're taking notes today: communication, celebration, and demonstration will show your team that they are valued to you. So communication, celebration, and demonstration.
That's good. And they all rhyme too.
Yes,
so that helps. All right, let's take a look at our last area, and that is identify a venue. What do we mean by identify a venue?
So we want to give our team opportunities to use their gifts. So many times leaders are afraid of releasing power, of releasing responsibilities. They don't want to delegate. They want to hold on to everything. And really, you're robbing yourself, and you're taking away from the morale and the momentum that can be created in your organization when people can use their gifts and actually flourish and develop their gifts under your leadership and within your organization.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a key point, is identifying that venue, finding a way where people can flourish. And, I said it earlier, and it really would fall under this point more so than anything. But, when you release somebody, not micromanaging them, why are you smiling right now? You're thinking of something, and it's just wrong.
Okay, this is our professional leadership
focused.
broadcast.
Yeah, this is supposed to be, like, refined here.
Okay.
So.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so looking at from this standpoint, you got to find ways where you can empower people, you release things to them. And what you're doing when you do that is you're saying, I trust you with this. Let's see how you do with it. Let's see how you respond with it. When you do that, that's really a confidence that you're placing in people to say, I'm willing to release this area of the organization to you, and then stand back and see how they do it. Don't micromanage them. Don't feel like you have to do everything and then they're still doing. What is going to happen is they'll get frustrated as a leader. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't evaluate what they're doing and keep calling them to higher standards. That doesn't mean there's sometimes where you say, hey, I don't like the way this is going. We need to change things up. Here's some suggestions, for you to make it a better product or make it something better or develop something in a better way. So, finding that venue, but then releasing them to do it and allowing them really honestly to fail sometimes, to make mistakes.
Definitely, releasing power as a leader, it puts you in a place of vulnerability, especially if you're a control freak or if you've grown the company from scratch or if you've planted a church from scratch, this is your baby. So to really release that and delegate, that makes you vulnerable. But vulnerability is a great point of connection with your people, that you're saying, you know what, I'm trusting you and I'm releasing this to you. And what you're ultimately saying is, I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in the gifts and the callings that God has upon your life. And that creates, positive momentum, positive morale, that they're a part of a team and under a leader who isn't afraid to release things. And, it's such a misconception as a leader that you have to hold on to everything. You'll only go so far as a leader if you hold tight to everything. But when you start to release and you start to delegate and you become vulnerable in the sense of, giving somebody a responsibility that they might fail out, but you're willing to lead them through it and help them to grow through it if they're cooperative with that, then your organization will continue to grow. And so, if you're watching today, don't be a leader that feels like you have to hold on to everything. And, you'll only grow so far in your leadership. If you're a pastor and you're still doing a million things and there's people in your congregation that want to help you and want to rise up and use their gifts, let them do it. Invest into them as leaders. And you'll see that as they're contributing to the organization, that you'll be able to celebrate things together, that you'll have that morale, that you're riding on the momentum, that positive momentum, that they're a part of something, they're contributing to it, and they're seeing wins that they are a part of.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, you always are looking for potential people to help carry the vision, and when you give them those tasks, you see how they're going to operate it with it. You see how they steward it, if they're faithful with it, if they mismanage it, if they're pouring into it, or if they're just kind of doing it or going through the motions with it. So that's a great test as a leader, to create a venue where you give somebody something to see how they respond, how they do with it. Are they taking it seriously, to see, what, this person, they could potentially take on more. Or, we just actually hired our discipleship pastor. And so, what we did, we saw, him and his wife be faithful with where they are and continue to grow in it and being committed. And so, that's how the kingdom works, is I give you some. What you do with what you're given determines how much more you can get, and that really determines the value you have to your organization as well.
That's good. It's important to help people to grow in the gifts that they have upon their life, not to feel threatened, not to feel intimidated. If you see a team member that really is good at something, whether it be media or however they can contribute to your organization, try to find a venue that they can release that and use it as a gift, and they'll feel fulfilled, and your organization will be blessed from it, and then you can grow together.
Yeah, so and the opposite is true, like you said earlier. Companies or organizations, churches with low morale, usually it's a few people trying to do it all, and then when you're trying to do it all, the quality of everything goes down, and so does the morale, because everybody just thinks, well, everybody else can handle it. Mm-hmm. Our mindset here and our vision is so big, we need all hands on deck. Right. we need people in every area to carry out the work that God's called us to do. And when you do that, people are celebrating. They're feeling valued. They're like, man, I can't believe I got to serve in this way, my church or the body of Christ, or serve as under the Lord. I can't believe I got to do this, and I was given this area of responsibility, and it boosts their morale.
Definitely. Part of our process of becoming a part of Champion is a natural process is that you step into a dream team or serving. And I think of this one dear woman who she doesn't want to be a greeter. She's kind of shy, but she serves, and she made beautiful flower arrangements for one of our events, and that was her gift. And that was a venue that allowed her to flourish and be a contributor and to feel part of the team. And they were gorgeous, and we were blessed, and she was blessed, and everyone who was there was blessed. So it's good to find a venue to look at people and say, how can they be used? What is their gifting? Celebrate them, and celebrate them through allowing them to serve in your organization.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, let's take a look. Is there any questions today?
Jess and Rebecca.
Yeah, good to see all of you guys on here.
Rob's amazing.
Joey Miller, love you. Good to see you on here. Hey, Nathan and Jesse and Julie. Good to see you. Let's take that question from Abby. How has the way you increase morale changed as your church staff has grown? That's a great question. So how has the increase morale, let me say this again. How has the way you increase morale changed as your staff and church has grown? Why don't you take a minute and then I'll respond to that.
Yeah, so, as you have an organization that continues to grow, there's more opportunities, and you can reach more, and you can do more. And, our staff really is incredible. I know I keep saying it, and our church volunteers are incredible. And, everyone sees the vision, and they just want to contribute to that vision. So, as we have these leaders that come in, we find a lot of times that not only are they good in one area, but they're good in several areas. So we have actually found it that at this stage in our growth, this actually lead broadcast, our lead seminars for the day that we have our Dream Team rallies, where our campus directors will pour a leadership principle into our people, our staff, really take a leadership role in leading the people that are under them, just to pour in leadership principles and to raise up leaders. So when our church was smaller, we did that to some extent, but really we take it as a mandate now is to invest into our leaders, to continue to raise up leaders so that we can multiply and go further with the kingdom of God than ever before. So, once again, it's just attacking that mentality that as your organization starts to grow, the natural inclination is to hold tight to everything because you've invested so much into it as a leader.
It's your baby.
But, it's your baby. Yeah. But when you start to release it and you start to actually pour into raising up leaders, identifying leaders, pulling out the best in them. Listen, it's a misconception that you have to wait for the picture-perfect leader to come walking through your door in any organization that you're in, whether a church or a business. No, you can create leaders. You can, if you're willing to invest into them, you can raise up leaders just with the help of the Lord. The Lord is helping you. He's helping them grow. You're pulling out the greatness within them. You're allowing them to have venues that they are serving. You're affirming them. And we're really creating a culture of leadership where we will continue to reproduce. And that creates wonderful morale. If you're in our Dream Team rally, they are amazing. It's such a gift to see everybody on the same page and growing as leaders, and so it's really good. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, I think every season looks different. When we started off, I was part of the setup team. There were Sundays where somebody didn't show up, so I was part of the setup team, or you were leading our youth ministry at one point, or children's. And so, you do what you need to do to get it off the ground. But then when God begins to send those things to you, you've got to recognize that. And then you've got to recognize what you just said. One of our roles has continually evolved over the years. Now, one of our primary responsibilities that we carry out and we hold very dear to our heart is the development of leaders, whether that's on the Dream Team. And then we recognize there's people, even our campus directors, man, they're phenomenal leaders. The two phenomenal couples that the hand of God is on, and they have walked with us through this, and so we've empowered them now. So we're when you're pouring into something, anytime you invest into something, you're going to get a harvest from it. So that would be, one of the ways I would answer that. You can answer that so many ways, but is the seed you sow into something is actually the harvest you're going to get out of it. So, what you do to invest in the leaders you have will determine, number one, if you keep them, and number two, if you build more leaders. And as you said, our dream team, we were in this facility a couple weeks ago. It was packed full of people. And none of those are people that they have jobs, they're volunteering, they're giving their best to God every week. They're not getting a paycheck for that. They're just doing it out of a love for God and out of a people that see a vision that's bigger than them and want to be a part of what God's doing.
And that's good. And I would say, to add one more thing, is to celebrate on the level that you're at. When we were small, our celebration points were different. Just like point number 2, finding things to celebrate. The thing that happens is as your organization begins to grow, people begin to see the momentum of, we are making steps to get to where we're going. But when you're in that initial process, you might not look like you're moving very quickly towards your goal, but don't miss out on the celebration. If you're just constantly frustrated, if you're constantly saying this is never going to happen, then you're going to really take away any morale that you have as a team. But take opportunities in that small phase to celebrate the small wins, getting you to the bigger steps towards the bigger places that you want to go. So.
Yeah. Let's look at the next one. Jesse and Rebecca, how can we make our leadership feel valued? So that, that's from a completely different perspective. I would say as a leader, one of the things that, our people do so well is they carry out the vision. Yeah. Like to me, you can say some things and I appreciate that. I value what you say. But when I see people that serve, that are committed to the vision, that when we say, hey, we'd like to see this, and people respond,
Which
it blows
makes me laugh
away.
Because Jesse and Rebecca are amazing at this.
They're great.
They have blitzed their whole community with flyers. They really take the vision to love God, reach the one, and change the world to heart. So definitely. And I think of that verse that Paul said, I have no greater joy than seeing my children walk in the truth. That when we see you taking the principles of God's word that we preach here on every week and really applying them to your life and seeing you get breakthroughs, oh my goodness, that's just amazing to us.
Yeah, but
leaders.
I think really just carrying out that vision, is people are serving, they're getting involved in champion groups, they're engaging the vision and they're carrying it out, and it's bringing glory to God. And that to me, it speaks of commitment and what God's doing. So another one, as a leader, do you take fails on yourself no matter where the breakdown has occurred? So you take fails.
Do you take responsibility for things that maybe don't work out?
I think any good leader, is going to, at the end of the day, if the buck stops at you, then that's you do need to take the fall of it, and that's that when you say take the fall for it, I don't necessarily mean if somebody went and messed something up, you don't say, oh, I did that, it's my fault. You take responsibility in the sense that you empowered that person and they failed the organization in that area. So just pulling them aside and helping them see where they need to get it right so that they don't allow it to be a pattern. Because as a leader, their success is your success. Our people and who they serve and week in and week out, their success, them being successful and fulfilling what God's put on their lives, it equals success to me. Because really in Ephesians 4:11, it talks about that the gifts of God are to empower the body to walk in what they're called to do. The pastor isn't called to do everything. That's such a lie from the pit of hell, and a misconception people have is pastors should just do everything. No, there's times where somebody else might pray on our altar team, might pray for somebody, and they see the power of God move. So we're here to equip the people to walk in success. But if someone's failing, as a leader, you've got to address that. If you don't address it, that's when you fail as a leader.
Right.
You fail them as a leader if you're not willing to have tough conversations or tell them, listen, you can do better, or we need to get this standard higher. So that's a great question.
Yeah.
So many questions today. So how important is it that while you're valuing those in your organization to find value for yourself? In other words, who celebrates you as a leader, and is that even important?
I think, being a leader, like you said, it's not about you. I think that you realize that if somebody in your organization, like you said, is winning, then you're winning, as a team. I think it's good that you stop and say, you know what, because if you're a leader, most likely you can be hard on yourself. Mm-hmm. I think if you're a good leader and you're assessing yourself, there's always that pitfall of being extra hard on yourself. So celebrating the wins, stepping back and saying, yeah, you know what, and we're doing well in this, and allowing the morale to be built within yourself, that you're doing things right and you're leading your team. But I think, as leaders, one of the ways that we value and we celebrate what we're doing as a leader is to see our team members growing, to see our staff members killing it at what they're doing. A good leader shouldn't have to take credit for everything, but they know, they're sitting back and they're proud of their staff or their team member that's really excelling in a certain area. So really to sit back and watching others is a way that I know that we find value as leaders. And not only that, but to continue to invest into ourselves. We just were listening to a podcast, and it said you're in dangerous territory as a leader when you stop asking the questions and you're always the one answering the questions. So continuing to value ourselves in a sense that we're investing into ourselves as leaders, continually asking questions of how we can grow, how we can continue to get better as leaders is a good way that we stop. But it's good to stop and celebrate as you're continuing to grow.
Yeah, I think, as a leader, if you're a leader, you ultimately, you have people that are under your care. You're serving them, you're helping to empower them. For me, and it goes back to, is the greatest act, I really feel, the thing that makes really me come alive and fulfills my heart is when I see people utilizing what God's put on their life. When they're succeeding, I feel as a leader, I feel I'm succeeding, and that's where I find my value. And that's what Christ was knowing what he did with the disciples is pouring into them. And at one point at the end of his life, he said, Lord, I've been faithful with everything you've given me and have not even lost one person. His success was built on the success of those he poured into. So I really feel like, when, like you said, when we see people that are carrying it out, that to me brings value to me, and that's what makes me like, man, we're doing it. Is when I see fruit's it for me.
Yeah.
If I see fruit, then I feel that's, you can't deny fruit. It's like you can't deny a miracle. Even if you want to talk yourself, you can't deny fruit. So if there's fruit, that to me is how a leader, the highest value a leader can feel, is when there's good fruit around them and other people are successful and succeeding. Where low culture, where there's cultures with low morale, it really becomes all about the leader,
right.
The one person, or even if it's like the pastor and his wife, like that is the in my opinion, the most disgusting thing when it becomes about just
a personality
or two people. There's a place for honor. There's a place for those things, and our people do those things well. So there's a principle in that I get, but it really should be about us equipping people to succeed and find their place in the body of Christ. They're anointed to do the work of God, so empowering them and releasing them to do it in a place where they're going to be under our leadership, and they're going to take guidance, they're going to take instruction, or sometimes even correction. So I think the fruit is really what speaks most. Y'all talking about joining in, but I think really a lot of great questions. So thank you guys. It's amazing to see y'all's love for each other, love for the body of Christ, And man, we love you all. We're so amazed at what God is doing. I hope you'll take some of these principles for your own life, whether it's your family, your business, your workplace, your church. Implement some of these things. Make sure you're investing in these ways that we talked about, seeing the vision, feeling valued, and identifying a venue. All those points today, take them, run with them. You'll see the morale build, and people love to be a part of a team that's always winning. People do not want to be on the Pittsburgh Pirates, all right? You already know you're losing nonstop, okay? People want to be a part of a winning team where the morale is high. So keep winning, keep celebrating one another, and your best is ahead.
That's so good. And if you're in the area, join us during our revival week. We have tonight and Friday. Last night, there was such a powerful move of the Spirit. So come and be a part of what God is doing. If you're in the area, it's 1200 Donnan Avenue, Washington, PA. You can watch online as well. I believe we're live streaming the services. But God is doing amazing things. Be a part of it. Like and share the broadcast if it spoke to you today. And we're so excited about seeing what God is going to do in and through you as you grow as a leader.
Yeah, so, man, we love you today. God bless you. Every Thursday, 12:30, join us. And then tomorrow morning, again, these services tonight and tomorrow night, but tomorrow morning, 9:05, join us for Morning Devo. We love you guys. God bless you. And remember, God has set you up to be a champion in this life.